The gunshots. Of the 12 neighbors that were interviewed about the Crowley family, only 2 neighbors reported hearing gunshots: Colin Prochnow and Alan Olson. Colin lived one house left of the Crowleys. Alan Olson lived behind the Crowley family on Lowell Drive. According to police reports, Colin Prochnow reportedly heard gunshots between December 2nd and December 19th, 2014. Mr. Prochnow was able to narrow down the date to December 9th or December 10th, sometime between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. most likely. Mr. Prochnow also believed the gunshots came from the direction of the Crowley residence. Colin did not contact law enforcement, Officer Tara Becker reported, but stated that he checked out his front door and didn't see anything, and checked out the back of his residence and thought it was fireworks. The second neighbor who heard gunshots was Alan Olson, who lived on the street behind David Crowley. Detective Brian Bone first spoke with Alan's wife, Gina Olson, who mentioned her husband heard, quote, 3 rapid-fire shots from somewhere outside their residence. A day later, Detective Bone followed up with Alan Olson to learn more about the gunshots heard before December 31st, 2014. Mr. Olson stated he was sitting in his living room one evening with his daughter when he heard 3 rapid-fire gunshots somewhere outside of his house. Olson could not remember exactly where the sounds came from, but he was certain he heard gunshots. Olson told Detective Bone that he and his family were home between 1 p.m. on Christmas Eve and 1 p.m. on Christmas Day. However, Mr. Olson was unsure if he heard the gunshots on either of those days. Detective Bone's report ended by stating Alan explained that he had not called the police because he did not have any specific information about when he heard the shots. How many gunshots should have been heard? 6, if the fragment, item 37, belonged to one of the 4 spent rounds found on January 17, 2015. Yet there was a maximum of 3 possible shots heard sometime between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. 3 rapid-fire shots, not 6. 3 shots could have accounted for what's in Komel and Raniya's autopsies. The reports state Komel was shot twice and Raniya was shot once. But that doesn't line up with the DNA results, which show there were 3 bullets tied to Komel, and another bullet was tied to Raniya and an unknown DNA profile. If the 3 bullets tied to the 3 rapid-fire shots were truly tied to the deaths of Komel and Raniya, that still leaves 3 bullets fired after their deaths. Only one of those bullets would account for David's death. Another bullet was fired into the floor of the living room, landing in the south basement wall. But that still leaves a bullet found close to Komel, which only has her DNA blood on it. How could this bullet only have Komel's blood, considering where the bodies were found? Let's take a look at the simple truth here. Komel was shot at least twice, ruling out a suicide on her part. If Komel died last, which is something we will consider in a future episode, there is no way she could have killed herself. The autopsies state Komel was shot twice, but DNA results have her blood and only her blood on 3 bullets. Raniya was found on top of Komel's back leg. If Raniya was shot where they say she was, it's possible some of that blood should have been on one of those 3 bullets tied to Komel. Yet the bullet tied to Raniya completely rules out Komel and David as contributors, but does include an unknown DNA source. So the bullet tied to Raniya did not just have Raniya's DNA on it. Another simple truth is that neighbors did not hear 6 fired shots in the area. Of the 12 neighbors who were interviewed by the police, only 2 of them reported hearing any type of shots or fireworks between December 2nd and December 31st, 2014. What Colin Prochnow heard on December 9th or December 10th is not relevant to the deaths of David, Komel, and Raniya Crowley, for the simple fact that David, Komel, and Raniya Crowley were still alive on December 9th and December 10th. That still leaves Alan Olson. He was certain he heard 3 rapid-fire gunshots between December 24th and New Year's Eve. Rapid fire, 3 shots. That leaves 3 gunshots he did not hear. But if those 3 rapid-fire shots came from the same gun, what targets did they hit? And does that line up with DNA results? Perhaps. But only if someone's body was moved at some point, then placed later where the first responders found them. In the end, no one heard 6 shots. They should have. But that doesn't mean that there were not shots fired in the house between late December of 2014 and mid-January of 2015. The order of deaths and the body placement will be covered soon.